pleased to be with all of you. And I was here a couple of years ago after my mom's first book was published. My mom is a retired United States ambassador, and I find myself in a unique club of people being the kid of a United States ambassador. Outside of my older brother, I haven't met any other children of ambassadors. And my brother and I became the kids of the ambassador as adults. Many ambassadors have youngsters that travel with them to wherever they're appointed through the diplomatic corps. My mother was a political appointee of George W. Bush, our 43rd president. So I said, what do I have to say about this? Because I think I'm obligated to share what I know about being the kid of. So I wrote a book with her. And I'm going to just hold up this big gem for you. And we came up with this whole idea of these gems because of this whole idea of passing on and handing down ideas, in addition to handing down stuff. So in my book, I talk about having Norwegian sweaters handed down to me by my older cousins, and dolls and doll clothes. And another thing that's really fun in our family is when my father buys my mother something pretty in the jewelry department, the smaller piece is usually passed on. So we have, yes, I'm the only daughter. So I do share with my sister-in-law. So the gem idea takes on significance for the whole idea of sharing. So later on, you can all have a gem if you would like. The book has 15 rhetorical gems. I brought books. You're welcome to open the books and look through them, but I wanted to share 2 of my favorite gems that I think have something to do with Rotary. So let's just meet Mary, the ambassador. The reason she considers herself an unlikely ambassador, she too started life as a professional musician. She graduated from the University of Iowa in 2.5 years as a concert pianist. She could have gone to Juilliard, but she did not. So she quickly went into the world of education and has had a fun series of different jobs over the course of her life. And, you know, she starts out as a concert pianist and ends up a United States ambassador. That's kind of a cool journey. So we talk about the journey in the book, but what I'm interested in sharing with you is this Gem 5. Gem 5 is pay it forward and give back. What better organization to discuss pay it forward and give back than Rotary? So the joke in our house is my dad's been a Rotarian since before I was born, but my mother could not be a Rotarian until 1987 when they said through the court that women could be, and then in 1989 when the Council of Legislation said, yes, please invite the women to join Rotary. She joined Rotary 5 in Des Moines, Iowa. They invited 10 women to join Rotary 5 because there was 10 seats at a table. And those 10 women all agreed never to sit together. So they stirred things up in Rotary 5. So there we are enjoying a little glass of wine, the unlikely ambassador and her diplomatic daughter, the optimistic pair there. So have you heard of the saying, to whom much is given, much is expected? So for many, many years, I really thought that that saying could be attributed to my grandfather, Ross Barnett, my mother's father, but it really comes from the book of Luke in the Bible. And it was passed on and passed on and passed on in our family. So we base the whole idea of passing on our gems because of to whom much is given, much is expected, because we've been given a lot. Again, I don't know very many people that can say they're the child of an ambassador and have had that experience. Rotary has service above self. Well, service above self really lends itself well to whom much is given, much is expected, because you really go above and beyond what is expected of you when you are Rotarian. What we think Gem 5 is to give you an action plan for putting this into play. So I could tell you about my dad being the Rotarian. One of the coolest things I have is an article from the West Des Moines newspaper where the West Des Moines Rotarians are giving away bicycles to youth who've never received a bike, and they give a helmet, And the little kid, tugs on my dad's trousers and says, "Mr. Kramer, you mean I really get to keep this?" And my dad's like, "Yes, you do, and I have a helmet for you." And his group of 70 some odd Rotarians has a warehouse where they work on these bikes over the winter so that every spring they can go to the underserved schools and give bikes. My mother is a colon cancer survivor, and after she had gone through that experience, and my dad had driven her back and forth to the hospital for various treatments, he decided what he would do was buy a limousine, and he would be the road to recovery for people with cancer. And he got himself a chauffeur's hat, and he would go and pick up people through the American Cancer Society that were aware that they were on the way to the hospital for chemotherapy or radiation or whatever it may be, and he wanted to take them in style to and from those appointments and encourage them to feel better. And he did that for several years after my mom's prognosis improved, and she's now 15 years cancer-free. One of the things that I love that Uptown Club does every year, we give away dictionaries. So this is my friend Isabel Giovignoli. Thank you. And her dad is a district governor in the Houston area this year, and we go to about 19 Dallas schools. These are very underserved Dallas independent schools, and we provide a dictionary to every third grader we can encounter who's in school that morning when we're showing up, and they get to keep these dictionaries. The 4-way test is inside the front cover, and we help these kids write their name in this book. And similar to my dad's experience, where you mean I get to keep this? Yes, you can keep this book. This is a $2.50 book, and you would have thought we gave them a bar of gold. And it just, I cried the first time that we did this, and then we asked all the children in the lunchroom to recite the 4-way test with us. So just imagine those little cute voices. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? It'll just warm you up left and right. So I just love that about what we do. So Gem 5 also matches, in my opinion, with the Code of Conduct for Rotary. It's hard to read here on the screen, but we do unto others. I would rather do business with a Rotarian. I'd rather call a Rotarian for advice, to go have a glass of wine, to invite over to my home for a meal, to take a trip. I've been so blessed by Rotary that my focus for Gem 5 is really Rotary based. I would not be able to sit here and discuss my book with you publicly speaking if it were not for Rotary. That's another thing that Rotary has done for me, is provided me a platform to become a better networker, a better leader, a better speaker. In 2010, when I joined Rotary, 3 months before I joined Rotary, I was petrified to give a 30-second commercial at a networking event. And Rotary transformed me thanks to just, you're on. When you become a leader in Rotary, you're just on. You just have to do what you have to do.
And you've been going on.
And I've been going on ever since. So I just love it. One of the other things that Gem 5 is important that overlaps with Rotary is the whole idea of networking. My mom has been involved in a networking group since the 70s, and to me these are the who's who of the professional women in Des Moines, Iowa. And they have been together since the 70s, and they're now experiencing some of what I think Rotary is experiencing, where they've evolved over time. They're older, they're more seasoned in their life. They don't want to go to breakfast every Tuesday morning, so now they have one breakfast, one lunch, and 2 dinners, because they all have that kind of time since they're not completely corporate and dedicated to 8 to 5 anymore. So to wrap up on Gem 5, I picked this quote from Emerson. It's one of the beautiful compensations of life that no man can sincerely try to help another without helping himself. That also applies to herself. So I really think that Rotary is the perfect example of bringing that quote to life through service above self and all the things that Rotary stands for. So if you were leafing through the book now, at the end of each Gem chapter, we give you an opportunity to think about how you could identify something about that gem from your life. So this is just an example of the For You to Say format at the end of Gem 5. And it's perfect for Rotary because we can all explain an experience that has meant something to us. We can all explain where in Rotary we have energy, satisfaction, and passion. We can all explain where we have skills that get tapped into thanks to Rotary. One of the things I really enjoy right now is leading the strategic planning and visioning for clubs because it just aligns itself so beautifully with what I do. So I get to ask a lot of powerful questions to Rotary clubs and help them, and I enjoy that. I'll let you know too, the spouse of an ambassador doesn't work. It's kind of a faux pas. But my dad had already retired when my mother became an ambassador. They were in their 70s when she became an ambassador. She just turned 80. My dad's turning 80 next month. So he went to Rotary and played golf all the time while he was in Barbados, and he loved it. And something as minor to him as going and filling up a lawnmower with gasoline gave him great joy because that meant that somebody's lawn could be mowed. And that little island and all those little islands in that region thrive on tourism. So having everything looking beautiful is something that the citizens take pride in. And so I just remember gas was very expensive there because they have to ship it there, different than the way we receive our gas. And so he loved going and getting gas for the lawnmower for the kids that were helping Rotary with lawn projects.
How did your mother connect to become an ambassador?
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked that, Linda. How are we doing on time? I want to be sensitive.
We've got about 17 more minutes.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Okay,
We'll say 15.
okay, plenty of time. So fast forward from she starts as a concert pianist to becoming a school administrator to becoming an executive. One of the years while she was an executive at the Blue Cross and Blue Shield plans of Iowa, the president of the company became Governor Robert E. Ray, who was a very beloved governor in the state of Iowa. And so two ladies that were in the Senate, the state Senate at the time, went to my mother and said, one of us is ready to retire and we want you to run for our seat, or for the seat. And we're going to tell Governor Ray that that's an okay thing and he should give you time off to do it. And they set this all up. And so she had never even considered running for political office. She was a Rotarian, she was a volunteer, she had major things going on at the YWCA in Des Moines at the time. They were doing a big bond issue to get that new building going. And she went and said to my dad, these ladies want me to become a senator. Should I become a senator? And he said, why not check it out? Talk to Robert Ray about it. So she talked to Governor Ray and he said, I think that's a good idea. She gets herself elected, first time out. Within a couple of years, she became the first independently elected woman president of the Iowa Senate as a Republican. So during those years was the time when we had Vice President Bush 41, and there was a woman in Iowa who was very high in the National Republican Committee, Mary Louise Smith. Mary Louise Smith's granddaughter Becky was Barbara Bush's social secretary. So all these little connections were being made, and when George W. came along to run, we had him at our house, and we had a dessert for him, and we had a fundraiser for him, and we had the Texas Rangers racing through our house checking everything out, and he got elected. So when the president gets elected, he has a book about the thickness of this book with all the plum jobs, and the plum jobs are the appointments that you can make as a president. And so the family was given a copy of the plum jobs, and Mary, what would you like to do for President Bush, as a part of service? And so she chose to work with, at the time, the Education Secretary Page, and she wanted to award the Fine Arts Scholarships through the Kennedy Center Awards for high school kids. So there's 2 from every state, fine arts and music, and she would go to the Kennedy Center and hear them perform with them, and give these awards. That was during term 1. Then he got elected again, and of course, we're from Iowa, so we're always in the front with New Hampshire. You're in the spotlight. It's a big deal if you win Iowa. So he won again, and someone from his staff called and said, Mary, would you like to do something different? She said, nope, I want to continue giving out the scholarships as I have been. So onward they go. They get into about April of his first year of his second term, and she's done with her Senate duties, and she and my dad have gone to Hilton Head. And they arrive, and there's a message at the concierge desk. Senator Kramer, the White House left a message, and you're supposed to call the White House. And she thought it was a joke, because they had a very tumultuous discussion over hog lots in the Senate session about budgets, and she thought someone was kind of pulling a prank. So she called Becky, granddaughter of the lady who served for Barbara Bush. Is this a joke? No, you need to call. And she calls, and Andy Card, the chief of staff, is waiting to talk to her. And the president has something he'd like you to consider. It would mean you'd have to give up your role as the Fine Arts Scholars Chair, but he's here and he'd like to talk to you. So President Bush gets on the phone. Mary, I need you to go to Barbados. I need you to consider being an ambassador. I need some Iowa common sense down there. They need some insurance and some agriculture advice down there. Can you do that? And she was like, can I think about it? And he said, you can have till Monday. And this was on Friday. So she called my brother. She called me, what do you think? I said, I think that kicks ass. And my brother said something a little more polite. And off they went to Barnes & Noble to read about the region, a place they'd never been before. And on Monday she said, yes, I will allow you to submit my name. And that was in April, and it wasn't until December of that year, on the very last day of the House and the Congress being in session, that she was confirmed through the Foreign Relations Committee. And then she was sworn in, and she spent 3.5 years there. That's the long and the short of it. So it's a perfect segue to this gem number 15, where continuous improvement. You do not get appointed to be a United States ambassador if you're not constantly working on your own improvement, your skills, your leadership, your relationship building, your vision, your strategy. There's just so much that goes into it. And so continuous improvement is a perfect example for us in Rotary as well as in our lives. So this is a quote from my mom: the biggest danger of being good is not trying to be better. So that's why we chose continuous improvement for our final gem, because it puts them all together. I think I mentioned this before. I really didn't enjoy going out and talking until Rotary. So Rotary has been a great place for me to practice my continuous improvement. My business has grown. I've grown as a person. I've become much more benevolent as a function of being a Rotarian, and I'm entirely grateful to Rotary for that. So what does that mean? Linda mentioned that I'm in school. Yes, I am somewhat of a freshman sophomore at the Grayson Community College up in Denison, Texas right now. And on December 11th, I'm going to graduate with a degree in viticulture and enology. And I'm going to open a winery and a vineyard in North Texas someplace. I've got my eye on a piece of property, and I'm trying to sell my house right now so I can buy it. But what this means to me, and to sum this all up for you before we go for questions, is you need to build a vision for your desired future. And we have dedicated a chapter to doing so in the book. You need to be an excellent listener. The word listen can also be rearranged to spell the word silent. And I think that's very important as a listener, to sit in silence and soak it all up. To bring along strong followers, and that doesn't mean strong-arming anyone. And my friend Randy Watkins likes to say voluntold instead of volunteer. It's our joke. But people will follow you willingly if you have the enthusiasm to bring them with you, and if you have the vision that pulls them along. If you keep focused on what is important and not get caught up in petty, teeny tiny drama and the things that really aren't valuable, that's also part of being an effective leader. If you accept responsibility for results, those can be good results or poor results. I know one day 2 people showed up to give away dictionaries, and we were expecting 8. And it was the year I was serving as a president, and I felt really terrible for the teachers at the school that were expecting 8 Rotarians to come and give away dictionaries to 70 kids, and 2 of us did it. But that's the way it goes. So you just accept it and go with it. It's a function of setting clear expectations. So those 6 missing people obviously did not get the memo on the clear expectations that day. This is one of the most important and valuable lessons that I can't repeat more. Tell people they're important to you over and over and over. Do this for your spouse, your children, your parents, your family members, your friends, your Rotarian buddies. Anyone that means anything to you, you need to tell them that they're important, because you always have to take advantage of that opportunity to do so. I'm sure that several of us could think of an instance where we didn't, and we wish that we would have. In order to lead change, you have to shine a positive light on change. Change is not a bad thing. Change is exciting. So share the benefits of what you see in the future for change. So this is where another of our chapters concludes, and we ask our readers to think about what they can do with continuous improvement. So these are just some questions that I think are valuable to ask ourselves when we're out there in the trenches of life, no matter where we are. And that will lead us to the conclusion of the gem discussion. And here's a picture of me holding a cluster of Tempranillo grapes. This was taken at the Rotarian-owned Eden Hill Vineyard in Salina, Texas. And they're members of the Preston Trail Club, and I help them harvest. And I intend to harvest Tempranillo myself in a few years, just north of where they are. So for you, I brought you all the opportunity to take a gem. These are these goofy little gems. They're not valuable other than, to me, they would be valuable if you would identify a gem from our book that means something to you, that you can carry with you and pass along to someone else, such as Rotary. It's always a good thing to share Rotary. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Krista.
You're welcome.